On the eve of the summer solstice, the air was thick with anticipation. The villagers of Redstone, a small farming community nestled at the base of Mount Pyrecrest, were preparing for their annual festival. Laughter filled the streets as children chased each other, their faces painted with vibrant colors. The scent of roasting meats and baking bread wafted through the air, mingling with the sweet aroma of wild flowers that grew along the riverbank. But unbeknownst to the villagers, this year's solstice would bring a storm unlike any they had ever seen. Atop Mount Pyrecrest, the dragon Zephyra, known as the Crimson Flame, awoke from her slumber. Her emerald eyes scanned the horizon, seeking any sign of intruders. Zephyra is a majestic dragon with scales that shimmer like molten rubies. Her wings are vast, capable of casting a shadow over an entire village, and her eyes glow with an inner fire. For centuries she had guarded her lair atop the mountain, protecting her treasures and her hatchlings from any who would dare disturb them. But as she looked down upon the village below, she sensed an unfamiliar energy emanating from the humans that inhabited it. Something was amiss. With a mighty roar, Zephyra spread her wings, casting a shadow that engulfed the entire village. The villagers, caught unaware, froze in fear as the dragon dove toward them, her claws extended. But as she neared, she stopped short, hovering just above the ground, the tips of her claws scraping against the cobblestones. Her emerald eyes locked onto a small group of children playing in the center of the square, their laughter filling the air despite their terror. It was then that Zephyra realized the truth: the humans of Redstone were not a threat to her or her hatchlings. They were innocent. In a move that surprised even herself, Zephyra gently lowered her head, her breath warm against the children's upturned faces. They shrieked in surprise and fear, but the dragon merely cocked her head to the side, studying them with curiosity. For the first time in centuries, Zephyra considered allowing the humans to remain in their village. Perhaps, if they proved themselves worthy, they could even be allies. But for now, she would have to teach them a lesson about trespassing in dragon territory. With a final, menacing hiss, Zephyra opened her jaws wide, revealing a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. The children screamed in terror, scrambling away from the dragon as fast as their legs could carry them. Their panicked cries echoed through the village, alerting the adults to the danger that now loomed overhead. The villagers, realizing their mistake, began to scatter, seeking shelter and safety. Some hid in their homes, while others fled into the surrounding woods and fields. But as Zephyra surveyed the chaos she had caused, she felt a pang of regret deep in her chest. As the last of the children disappeared from sight, Zephyra let out a sigh, her body relaxing slightly. She knew that she had to make an example of someone, to show the humans that they could not simply ignore her presence. With a heavy heart, she fixed her gaze on a lone farmer who had been too slow to flee. He stood, trembling, his hands raised in supplication. His eyes were wide with fear, but there was also a spark of defiance there. It was that spark that made Zephyra hesitate. With a snap of her jaw, Zephyra sent a stream of flames shooting toward the ground, creating a small crater where the farmer had been standing moments ago. The impact knocked the villagers to the ground, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. When the smoke cleared, Zephyra was gone, vanished into the sky like a crimson streak. The silence that followed was deafening. Years later, King Alden came to rule over Eldoria, and he married a beautiful woman, Queen Elara. Their kingdom flourished under their wise and benevolent reign. The people of Eldoria prospered, enjoying peace and prosperity in their verdant homeland. The vineyards of the Greenbelt Plains produced more of the kingdom's famed wines than ever before, while the skilled craftsmen and women of the Everwood Forest created masterpieces of woodwork and metalwork that were sought after by nobles and commoners alike. King Alden is a dignified figure with a commanding presence. He stands tall with a robust build, his hair cut short to maintain a neat appearance. His eyes are a warm, deep brown, often found twinkling with mirth during lighter moments. His face bears the lines of many smiles and the weight of difficult decisions, giving him an air of approachability and authority. The capital city of Eldoria was a bustling center of trade and culture, with merchants from far-flung lands bringing exotic spices, silks, and other treasures to its vibrant marketplaces. The magnificent castle, Lion's Heart Keep, perched atop a hill overlooking the city, was a testament to the strength and stability of the kingdom. Its grand halls were filled with the music of minstrels and the laughter of nobles, as they danced at lavish banquets and told tales of the kingdom's storied past. Despite the peace and prosperity that reigned in Eldoria, King Alden was not one to rest on his laurels. He remained vigilant, constantly seeking ways to improve the lives of his subjects and to protect the kingdom from potential threats. Queen Elara, meanwhile, devoted herself to the promotion of education and the arts, believing that a well-informed and cultured populace was the surest path to lasting peace and prosperity. Queen Elara is the epitome of elegance and poise. She has a graceful figure and moves with a gentle confidence that endears her to all. Her hair is a cascade of soft, chestnut waves that frame her kind face. Her eyes are a striking emerald green, reflecting her keen intellect and compassionate nature. One fateful day, news arrived at the castle gates of an imminent threat to the kingdom's north. A powerful warlord, seeking conquest and wealth, had amassed a massive army and was marching towards Eldoria's borders. King Alden and Queen Elara immediately convened their most trusted advisors and knights to discuss the situation. The tension in the air was thick as they strategized, each person weighing in with their own insights and suggestions. As the meeting progressed, it became clear that a bold and decisive action was needed to protect their people. King Alden, his voice steady and resolute, announced his plan to lead an army personally against the invaders. There was a collective gasp in the room, but the king continued, "I have ruled this kingdom for many years, and I will not stand by and let it be taken from us. I will face this threat head-on, and with the help of my loyal subjects and Queen Elara at my side, we will emerge victorious." The queen, her emerald eyes filled with pride and admiration for her husband, nodded in agreement. "You are the just and wise king that our people need in these trying times," she said, placing a comforting hand on his arm. "And I, for one, will follow you into battle, for I know that together we can protect our beloved Eldoria." The assembled nobles and knights, moved by the courage and dedication of their monarchs, vowed to stand with them against the coming storm. In the end, the plan was set in motion, and preparations were made for what would be the greatest battle in Eldoria's history. As the sun set on the kingdom, soldiers readied their weapons and armor, and prayers were offered up to the gods for protection and guidance. The next morning, the army of Eldoria marched out of the capital, led by King Alden and Queen Elara at its forefront. The air was tense as they approached the enemy forces, but the determination in the eyes of the king and queen was unmistakable. As they clashed in a bloody battle that would last for days, the legend of King Alden and Queen Elara grew, their names becoming synonymous with courage, wisdom, and compassion. In the midst of the chaos, a lone figure slipped through the ranks of the Eldorian army, making her way towards Lion's Heart Keep. This assassin, sent by the warlord in a desperate attempt to turn the tide of the battle, had managed to slip past the watchful eyes of the guards. Her goal: to poison Queen Elara and bring about the downfall of Eldoria from within. As the assassin drew nearer to the castle, she heard the distant sounds of combat, the clash of steel on steel, and the cries of the wounded and dying. She quickened his pace, eager to end her mission and return to her master with news of her success. But fate had other plans. Just as the assassin was about to scale the castle walls, she was startled by the sound of a voice calling out to her. Turning around, she saw Lady Rowena, the queen's closest friend and confidant, standing before her. Lady Rowena's eyes were filled with a steely determination, and her hand rested on the hilt of her sword. "I know who you are and what you've come to do," she said calmly. "But you will not harm Queen Elara." The assassin, taken aback by Lady Rowena's courage and composure, hesitated for a moment. But the sounds of battle grew closer, and she knew that she could not delay any longer. With a swift movement, she drew her dagger and lunged at Rowena, intent on ending her life before she could raise the alarm. Rowena, quick as a whip, parried the attack with her sword, sending the assassin's weapon clattering to the ground. The two women circled each other warily, their breaths quick and ragged. The assassin was no match for Rowena's years of training and experience as a warrior, but she was desperate and determined. As the sounds of battle grew fainter, they knew that their struggle would soon be over one way or another. The assassin lunged again, hoping to catch Rowena off guard, but the Queen's friend easily sidestepped the attack and struck back, forcing the assassin to retreat. The assassin glanced around frantically, searching for an escape route. Meanwhile, inside the castle, Queen Elara paced anxiously, her thoughts consumed by the battle raging outside. She knew that something was wrong, that there was an unspoken danger lurking somewhere nearby. Suddenly, a servant rushed into the chamber, his face pale with fear. "My lady," he gasped. "Lady Rowena has been spotted fighting someone outside the castle walls." Without a moment's hesitation, Queen Elara sprang into action. She grabbed her sword and ran towards the balcony, overlooking the courtyard below. There, she saw Lady Rowena and the assassin locked in a fierce struggle. The assassin was clearly growing desperate, her movements becoming more erratic and wild. And then, with a final, desperate lunge, the assassin managed to pierce Lady Rowena's armor, driving the dagger deep into her chest. Rowena's eyes widened in surprise, and she staggered back a step before falling to the ground. The assassin, seeing her prey slain, turned and fled, disappearing into the shadows of the castle. Queen Elara, her heart racing with fear and anger, took off after her, determined to bring the assassin to justice. Meanwhile, below in the courtyard, the battle between Eldoria and the invading forces raged on, seemingly oblivious to the drama unfolding within the castle walls. Soldiers from both sides fought with a fierce determination, their lives and their lands hanging in the balance. King Alden led his men from the front lines, his sword singing through the air as he fought with a skill that had earned him legendary status. But even as he fought, he could not help but think of his wife and her brave friend, both of whom were now in grave danger. His eyes darted back and forth between the battle and the castle, unable to focus on either one. Queen Elara, having lost sight of the assassin, began to search the castle corridors, her heart pounding with fear and determination. She paused outside a door, hearing the sound of muffled sobs coming from within. With a deep breath, she steeled herself and forced the door open. Inside, she found a young servant girl huddled in a corner, her face streaked with tears. "What's wrong, child?" the queen asked gently. The servant girl looked up at her, trembling. "I heard someone enter the castle through a secret passageway, my lady," she stammered. "She was moving quickly and didn't want to be seen." Queen Elara's eyes widened with realization. She knew of a secret passageway that led to an underground chamber where the kingdom's most precious treasures were kept. If the assassin had found out about it, she might try to steal the treasures and use them to fund the enemy army. Without another word, she rushed towards the hidden door that led to the passageway, her sword clutched tightly in her hand. Meanwhile, back in the courtyard, the battle raged on. King Alden fought valiantly, his men following his example. They were making progress against the invaders, slowly pushing them back towards the edge of the castle grounds. But even as they fought, they could not ignore the sounds of combat coming from within the castle walls. They exchanged worried glances, fearful for the safety of their loved ones. Inside the castle, Queen Elara navigated the twisting passageways with expert precision. She emerged into a dimly lit chamber, lit only by flickering torches. Before her lay the treasure chamber, its walls lined with shelves overflowing with gold, jewels, and other priceless artifacts. But her attention was drawn to the figure huddled in the corner, back turned towards her. The assassin? The assassin's fingers brushed against the cold metal of a small, concealed dagger. With a swift motion, she drew it from its sheath, the blade glinting ominously in the torchlight. The edge was coated with a dark, viscous substance, a deadly poison known to bring down even the mightiest of warriors with a single scratch. Queen Elara, her senses heightened by the peril of the moment, caught the faintest shimmer of the poisoned blade. Her training as a warrior queen kicked in, and she instinctively raised her sword, ready to parry any attack. The assassin lunged, the dagger aimed straight for the queen's heart, but she deftly sidestepped, the blade missing her by mere inches. The two circled each other warily, the queen's eyes never leaving the gleaming, lethal weapon in the assassin's hand. She knew she had to end this quickly, before the poison could claim her kingdom's future, or her life. With a battle cry that echoed through the chamber, she charged, her own blade ready to strike true for Eldoria. In a desperate struggle, Queen Elara managed to deliver a fatal blow to the assassin, ending the threat to her kingdom. However, in the heat of the battle, the assassin's poisoned dagger had grazed her arm. The queen felt a searing pain as the venom began to spread through her veins. With the assassin defeated, she quickly retrieved the vial of antidote she always carried for such perils. With trembling hands, she poured the liquid over the wound, neutralizing the poison's effects. Though weakened, Queen Elara's resolve remained unshaken. She knew she had to return to King Alden's side to continue defending their beloved Eldoria. The queen's bravery and quick thinking saved not only her life, but also the future of the kingdom. Her actions would be remembered as a testament to the strength and courage of the royal family, or so she thought. As Queen Elara stood there, panting and clutching her wounded arm, she noticed that King Alden had yet to enter the chamber. She turned to the servant girl, who was still shaken from her encounter with the assassin. "Go, girl," she commanded, "and tell the king that I have dispatched the assassin. Tell him that I am well, and that I need him to rally the troops and finish what we have started." The servant girl nodded, her eyes wide with fear, but she turned and hurried away, leaving Elara alone with the lifeless form of the assassin at her feet. The queen knelt beside the body, searching it for any clue as to who had sent the assassin, or why they had chosen this moment to strike. But there was nothing, only a few coins and a worn piece of parchment bearing an illegible scrawl. Elara rose to her feet, her arms still throbbing with pain. The wound was healing swiftly, thanks to the antidote, but she knew she would bear the scars of this attack for the rest of her life. She looked around the chamber, wondering how long it would take for the rest of the castle to find out about what had happened. The door to the treasure chamber creaked open, and King Alden burst through, sword drawn. His eyes darted from the assassin to his wife, concern etched on his features. "Elara!" he exclaimed. "Are you hurt? The assassin, is she?" Queen Elara, her face pale but resolute, turned to her husband. "I am well, my love," she said, her voice steady despite the pain she felt. "The assassin is dead. But we must hurry. We must gather our forces and finish what we have started before the enemy has a chance to regroup." King Alden rushed to Queen Elara's side as she collapsed, the poison's delayed effects taking hold. He lifted her gently, calling for the royal healer with urgency in his voice. The healer, an old sage with knowledge of ancient remedies, quickly arrived and began to work on an antidote to counteract the poison's resurgence. As the healer murmured incantations and mixed potent herbs, King Alden held Elara's hand, his grip firm yet tender. The battle outside had ceased, their forces victorious, but the true battle was now within these castle walls, a fight for Elara's life. The royal healer's eyes were filled with worry as each remedy failed to reverse the poison's effects. King Alden watched, his heart heavy with dread. The healer turned to him, a grave look upon his face. "Your Majesty," he began, "there is one final treatment, but it requires an ingredient of great power, the blood of a dragon." With the healer's grave news, King Alden knew that the quest for the dragon's blood was a perilous one that required a leader of exceptional bravery and loyalty. He summoned Sir Cedric the Brave, the most trusted knight in all of Eldoria, and entrusted him with the vital mission. Sir Cedric is a tall and muscular knight in his late 20s, with short, sandy blonde hair and piercing blue eyes. His armor is a shining silver, adorned with the crest of Eldoria, a golden lion on a field of green. Raised by a noble family in the capital of Eldoria, Cedric was trained from a young age in the arts of war and chivalry. His natural talent and hard work quickly made him one of the kingdom's most respected knights, and he is known for his unwavering courage and strong sense of justice. As he embarks on his quest to slay a dragon, Sir Cedric realizes that the journey will not be easy. The terrain is treacherous, filled with steep mountains and dense forests. He must also contend with the harsh weather conditions, including freezing temperatures and heavy snowfalls. To make matters worse, he knows that the dragon will not be an ordinary foe. It will be cunning and powerful, with impenetrable scales and fearsome breath weapons. After a bloody battle, he knows this quest will be daunting. Still weary, Sir Cedric rides for days through the unforgiving landscape, his steed, Valor, carrying him across rocky ridges and through icy streams. As he ascends higher into the mountains, the air grows thin and cold, making each breath a struggle. Despite the hardship, Sir Cedric remains determined to reach the dragon's lair and bring back the blood that could save Queen Elara. One afternoon, as he makes his way through a particularly dense forest, he stumbles upon a small clearing. To his horror, it is filled with the remains of a village that once stood there. The charred ruins of buildings, blackened timbers sticking out of the snow, tell a story of devastation and death. Sir Cedric dismounts, his heart heavy with grief for the innocent lives that were lost. The air is thick with the stench of smoke and death, and a chill runs down his spine as he realizes that the dragon responsible for this carnage must be close by. His trusty steed, Valor, whinnies softly, sensing her rider's unease. Sir Cedric pets the animal reassuringly, taking a moment to compose himself before continuing onward. They press deeper into the forest, the trees growing taller and denser around them. The snow underfoot becomes more difficult to navigate, and they are forced to slow down to avoid losing their footing. As they push forward, they begin to hear a distant roar echo through the trees, sending shivers down Sir Cedric's spine. He knows that they are drawing closer to their quarry. Finally, they emerge from the forest and find themselves at the base of a towering mountain. The snowy peak is shrouded in clouds, and the air grows colder and thinner with each step they take. Sir Cedric steels himself, mounting Valor once more, and guides the animal up the winding path that leads toward the dragon's lair. The journey is treacherous, with rocky outcroppings and icy ravines lining the way. They must navigate carefully, for one misstep could send them plummeting to their doom. As they climb higher, the wind picks up, whipping through Sir Cedric's cloak and stinging his face. He can feel the weight of his armor growing heavier with each labored breath. Despite the discomfort, he refuses to let exhaustion or fear slow him down. He knows that the dragon is powerful, but he also knows that he is a match for it. He has trained his entire life for this moment, and he will not shirk his duty. Up ahead, he spots the cave opening. The entrance is framed by jagged rocks, and smoke billows out from within, carrying the acrid stench of burning flesh and sulfur. His heart pounds in his chest as he draws his sword and approaches the cave. As he steps inside, the heat of the dragon's lair envelopes him like a furnace. The dragon's lair is a realm of primordial wonder, carved into the very heart of the mountain. It is a vast, domed chamber, supported by natural pillars of stone that rise up like the trunks of ancient trees. The air is warm and heavy, filled with the scent of brimstone and the faint, metallic tang of treasure long untouched. The walls of the lair are rough-hewn, the rocks scorched by the dragon's fiery breath, leaving patterns that resemble the flow of lava frozen in time. In some places, the stone is smooth and glassy, reflecting the eerie glow of scattered gemstones embedded within the earth. These jewels cast a kaleidoscope of colors across the cavern, their light playing off the dragon's scales, which shimmer with a sinister beauty. At the center of the lair lies the dragon's hoard, a sprawling pile of gold that spills over like the waves of a golden sea. Coins from kingdoms long forgotten glint amongst goblets, crowns, and scepters of untold value. The treasure is heaped upon a raised dais of stone, the centerpiece of the dragon's domain, where the beast slumbers amidst its ill-gotten gains. Stalagmites rise from the floor like the spikes on the dragon's back, creating a treacherous maze that Sir Cedric must navigate. The ground is strewn with the remnants of the dragon's meals, bones picked clean and scattered among the gold, a grim reminder of the lair's deadly inhabitant. In the farthest reaches of the lair, hidden from immediate view, are the remnants of the dragon's past victims. Shattered shields, rusted swords, and fragments of armor are all that remain of the brave souls who dared to challenge the beast. Their stories are lost to time, but their presence is felt in the oppressive silence that hangs in the air. This is the stage upon which Sir Cedric's epic battle unfolds, a place of both awe-inspiring grandeur and terrifying danger. It is here, in the dragon's lair, that legends are born and heroes are made. As Sir Cedric stood amidst the splendor and terror of the dragon's lair, a shadow of doubt began to creep into his heart. The weight of his sword felt heavier in his hand, and the once comforting clank of his armor now seemed to echo with the whispers of his own uncertainty. He had come this far, driven by the tales of valor and the promise of glory that awaited the slayer of the dragon. Yet, as he gazed upon the beast, its scales a tapestry of midnight, and its eyes alight with the fires of eons, Sir Cedric's resolve wavered. Was he truly the hero that songs would be sung about, or was he merely another soul seeking an end within these cursed walls? The dragon, sensing the night's inner turmoil, unfurled its massive wings with a thunderous roar, as if to challenge the very notion of Sir Cedric's quest. The air grew hotter, and the ground beneath him trembled. In that moment, Sir Cedric's thoughts turned to his family, his village, and the countless lives that would continue to be shattered should he fail. It was the thought of those innocent faces, the lives he had sworn to protect, that kindled a flame within Sir Cedric's chest. He would not, succumb to fear. With a deep breath, he lifted his gaze to meet the dragon's fiery eyes and spoke a silent vow. He would fight, not for the glory, but for the hope of a future free from the dragon's tyranny. With renewed purpose, Sir Cedric tightened his grip on his sword and charged forward, his battle cry a defiant declaration in the face of doubt. The battle that followed would be one of legend, not because of the knight's unwavering courage, but because of his ability to conquer the uncertainty within and emerge victorious. In the heart of the mountain, where shadows danced with the flickering light of Sir Cedric's torch, the air was thick with the scent of sulphur and ash. Sir Cedric, clad in his gleaming armor, moved with silent determination. His sword, a blade forged from the rarest steel, gleamed with a light that seemed to pierce the darkness itself. The battle commenced with a roar that shook the mountain's core. Fire and steel clashed in a symphony of destruction. Sir Cedric, undaunted by the beast's fearsome might, dodged jets of flame that turned rock to molten rivers. The dragon's tail swept with the force of a tempest, but Sir Cedric's shield held fast, deflecting the blows that would have shattered lesser men. Blood, both human and draconic, painted the ground in a macabre tapestry. Sir Cedric's armor bore the scars of the dragon's wrath, yet his resolve never wavered. With each swing of his sword, he chipped away at the dragon's defenses, until at last, with a cry that echoed the fury of the storm, he plunged his blade into the dragon's heart. The beast's final scream was a sound of both agony and the end of an age. It collapsed, its body thrashing in the throes of death, and then lay still. Sir Cedric stood victorious, his breaths coming in ragged gasps, his sword dripping with the ichor of the dragon. The lair fell silent, save for the crackling of cooling rock and the soft clink of gold shifting beneath the weight of the fallen tyrant. The knight, exhausted and bloodied, surveyed the devastation around him. The lair had been transformed from a place of terror to one of solemn reverence. He knew that the journey back to Valoria would be fraught with danger, as word of the dragon's death spread and others sought to claim the glory for themselves. But Sir Cedric was no longer concerned with glory. He was content knowing that he had completed his quest to save the Queen. As the silence of victory settled over the dragon's lair, Sir Cedric, with hands that trembled not from fear but from the exertion of battle, knelt beside the fallen beast. From his pouch, he drew a small vial, its glass forged from the sand of the eastern deserts, known to withstand the heat of dragon fire. With reverence, he approached the dragon's wound, where the blood, thick and luminous like molten rubies, flowed freely. The heat emanating from the liquid was intense, a remnant of the fire that once coursed through the dragon's veins. Sir Cedric carefully collected the blood, the vial growing warm in his grasp, a testament to the life force of the creature that had terrorized the lands for centuries. The blood of the dragon was said to hold properties both mystical and potent. It was an alchemist's dream, a component for potions of strength, healing, and even the rumored elixir of immortality. Sir Cedric, however, sought it for a different purpose. He intended to present it to his king as proof of his deed, a symbol of peace restored and a future secured. With the vial now filled, Sir Cedric sealed it with a stopper of silver and tucked it safely away. The warmth of the dragon's blood against his chest served as a reminder of his triumph, a triumph not just over the dragon, but over the doubts that had once clouded his heart. With a final look of reverence at the fallen dragon, Sir Cedric turned and began the long trek back to the kingdom. The journey was fraught with danger, as bandits and other treasure-seekers sought to claim the glory for themselves. But Sir Cedric's name spread far and wide, and he was hailed as a hero throughout the land. It was a triumphant knight who finally made his way through the gates of Eldoria, Sir Cedric's sword and shield now symbols of peace and hope. The people lined the streets, cheering his name and throwing flowers at his feet. Even the king, stern and unyielding as he was, could not help but be moved by Sir Cedric's courage and determination. As he approached the throne room, Sir Cedric felt a surge of nervousness in his stomach. He had come to present the dragon's blood to the king, but he was unsure how it would be received. He needn't have worried. When he knelt before the throne and held out the vial, the king's eyes widened in gratitude. "You have done it, Sir Cedric," the king said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You have slain the dragon and saved our queen. For this, you shall have our eternal gratitude." The healer, a woman of great wisdom and skill, stepped forward and took the vial of dragon's blood from Sir Cedric's hand. With reverence, she carried it to the queen, who lay upon her bed of gold and velvet. The queen's once beautiful face was pale and drawn, her breath shallow. The healer knelt by her side and carefully uncorked the vial, holding it above the queen's lips. "Drink this, your majesty," she said, her voice soft and steady. "It is the blood of the dragon, a gift from your champion, Sir Cedric. It will heal you, and drive the poison from your body." The queen, weak as she was, reached out a trembling hand and took the vial. She raised it to her lips and drained its contents in one long, shuddering breath. As the liquid coursed through her veins, a visible change came over her. Her skin regained its color, her breath deepened, and a spark of life returned to her eyes. The healer, who had watched this transformation with keen interest, nodded in satisfaction. "Your Majesty," she said, "you are healed. The poison has left your body, and the strength of the dragon's blood runs through your veins." Sir Cedric, unable to contain his joy, knelt at the queen's bedside. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice choked with emotion, "I cannot express how glad I am to see you well again. It is an honor beyond measure to have served you in this way." Queen Elara, her strength now returned, took Sir Cedric's hand in hers and squeezed it gently. "Your courage and determination, Sir Cedric, know no bounds," she said. "You have saved not only my life, but the very future of our kingdom. For this, I will be forever in your debt." As the others in the room watched, a look passed between them, a silent understanding that their fates were now intertwined. The queen, realizing the weight of her words, leaned in closer to Sir Cedric. "There is one more thing I wish to ask of you," she whispered. "A favor, if you will grant it." Sir Cedric, his heart already filled with gratitude, nodded eagerly. "Your Majesty," he said, "you need only ask?" The queen hesitated for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I would like you to remain at court, Sir Cedric," she said at last. "As our most trusted advisor, your wisdom and counsel will be invaluable to us as we rebuild our kingdom and forge a new future for all its people." Sir Cedric was taken aback by the request, but he did not hesitate to accept. He knew that this was his chance to make a difference, to leave a lasting impact on the kingdom. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice filled with determination, "it would be the greatest honor of my life to serve you in such a capacity. I will dedicate myself fully to ensuring your reign is marked by wisdom, prosperity, and peace." As word spread throughout the kingdom of Sir Cedric's heroic deeds, the people were filled with a renewed sense of hope and pride. They gathered in the market squares and at the gates of the castle, cheering his name and waving banners of blue and gold, the colors of their beloved kingdom. Sir Cedric, now a trusted advisor to the king and queen, worked tirelessly alongside them. They faced countless challenges, from rebuilding the shattered cities and towns to quelling border skirmishes and forging alliances with neighboring kingdoms. Throughout it all, Sir Cedric's wisdom and diplomacy were invaluable. He was known for his fairness and compassion, always seeking to understand the perspectives of those he encountered. His reputation for honesty and integrity spread far and wide, earning him the respect of even the most hardened warlords and the loyalty of many. However, he never forgot the feeling of fighting the dragon. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it.